Now, a new COVID vaccine for kids may be on the market in about a month. Pfizer waiting for the green light from federal regulators. In the meantime, New York health officials are poised to move fast to distribute the doses as soon as they're cleared.
We are certainly ready to roll out vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds once we do have approval.
In school right now, all the teachers, they scared because if you sneeze, they think you already got the COVID. So that way everybody's vaccinated and it's better for everybody.
I would like to see some more background on these vaccines that's coming out instead of me just jumping on right along ahead and getting something.
And there are a lot of questions surrounding the children's COVID vaccine. So we invited Dr. Sallie Permar, the head of pediatrics at NewYork-Presbyterian Hospital, to give us some answers. Good morning, Dr. Permar. How are you?
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks again for joining us. As a parent, I know a lot of parents who have so many questions and concerns. Now, one thing, young children, they were rarely diagnosed with COVID until the Delta variant came along. So will these vaccines target those new variants?
Yes, it's a great question. That early on, it was true that children were less affected by coronavirus compared to adults that were getting really sick and filling the hospitals. As the pandemic has progressed, and especially with the new, more transmissible variant, the Delta variant, children became a quarter of all infections in the last couple of months that were occurring. And that led to a lot of severe infections in children as well. At one time this summer, 30,000 children were hospitalized with COVID. Luckily, these vaccines do work against that new Delta variant.
So let me ask you this, because there's a lot of concern about vaccines overall, right? So is the children's Pfizer vaccine basically a milder version of what an adult would get?
Yeah, the exciting thing about this vaccine is that it's been specifically designed for this age group. So there was extensive dose testing that was done in this age group in order to determine the best dose that would elicit a great immune response that could be protective, because we know a lot about what's protective now based on the adult studies. And then they reduced the dose so that the fewest side effects would come along with that. And so this is a vaccine that has a distinct dose just for the 5 to 11-year-olds.
I was just going to ask you, so this is totally different from the vaccine that's already in place for kids that are 12 years old and older?
It's not totally different. It's just a lower dose. So at this point, 12-year-olds and up for the Pfizer vaccine will get a dose of 30 micrograms, whereas the 5 to 11-year-olds looks like what is being proposed to be approved is a 10 microgram dose, so a third of the dose.
So Pfizer and some of the other vaccines already approving a booster for adults. Will children need booster shots of this vaccine as well?
That's a great question that we don't have the answer to yet. There are a lot of differences in the immune system of a child compared to an adult. And so it's possible that the timing that a booster is needed for a child might be different than that of an adult. And so luckily these children, the over 2,000 children that were included in this original trial, will be followed over time, and they will help tell us when the immune responses go below a level that we know to be protective. And that will indicate when children will need a booster.
So, not to be an alarmist here, but both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine have the risk of increased inflammation around the heart among young teens, right? That was discussed at length, especially boys. So are there any risks that parents need to know about before having their children vaccinated for the younger population?
Yeah, so this is, of course, being studied very intensely. And now that we have so many millions of doses that have been out there, and including in our adolescents, there's a lot more information that has been able to be gathered about the inflammation around the heart. And the estimates are maybe somewhere around 40 or so in a million doses may have that effect. It's a inflammation around the heart that's very different than what you would get from a viral infection, even SARS-CoV-2, where the infection seems to be treatable. The inflammation is treatable and usually very mild. This has not, the studies were not large enough to see that rare side effect in this younger group. And so we don't yet know how frequent it will be. But the other good news is that it's a lower dose. And so it would follow that the side effects should be lower with that lower dose.
All good information. Dr. Permar, thank you so much for being here this morning and kind of navigating us through this. I'm sure we'll talk to you again as we get closer to it being approved.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.